A very warm welcome to all our viewers and welcome to a new episode of Africa Today, our program that brings you all the latest news and events happening all around the African continent. My name is Angie Meher and I'll be joining you for this afternoon's edition. And as usual, we begin straight away with a look at the news making the headlines and starting with a look at news from home, where Cairo, Egypt, has remained as a top recipient of foreign direct investments, or FDI, in Africa for the fifth year in a row, reaching $5.9 billion US. The amount represents 53% of foreign direct investments directed to the African continent. We have more details in this report.
The Ministry of Planning and Economic Development said Egypt has improved the business environment, which includes benefiting from and building on institutional and legislative reforms, such as the new investment and bankruptcy laws, as well as amending the public-private partnership law and amending the capital market law. It said Egypt has also launched the National Structural Reform Program, which includes a set of supporting pillars like increasing the relative weight of sectors industry, agriculture, communications and information technology in the Egyptian economy. It said this is in addition to improving the efficiency of the labor market and technical and vocational education and training through developing the technical education and vocational training system. A report by the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development said that despite the challenges posed by the corona crisis, Egypt remained at the forefront of foreign direct investment in Africa. The report indicated that foreign direct investment increased in the first quarter of 2021-2022 by 4%, with inward investment in non-petroleum sectors increasing by 28%, including industry, financial services, construction, information technology, and communications. The report also indicated that the United Kingdom accounts for 34% of the total foreign direct investment, followed by the United States.
نحن لدينا مصير مشترك.
مصر تسلمت الرئاسة الدورية للاتحاد الإفريقي لعام 2019 وتتطلع كعادتها دوما للتعبير عن شواغل الشعوب الإفريقية الشقيقة الرامية لتحقيق الاستقرار والتقدم ودفع عجلة التنمية قدما. إذا كنتم ترغبون في تغيير وجه القارة الأفريقية، فالاتحاد الإفريقي كقيادة تستطيع أن تعمل وتدرس بشكل مركزي لمشروع عملاق لبناء بنية أساسية على مستوى القارة. أنا أتصور أن الأمن والاستقرار استثمار. إذا لم تستقر هذه القارة والأمن فيها بمعدلاته عالية، هذا الأمر سينعكس بالسلب علينا كلنا.
Welcome back, and continuing with our news making the headlines in today's edition of Africa Today. Cairo has invited African countries to hold a consultative session on climate and energy to coordinate African positions ahead of the COP27, which is to be held in November in Egypt. We have more details in this story.
In a workshop held by Morocco via video conference on the challenges of mobilizing capital markets to finance this transition of a sustainable energy market, Egyptian ambassador to Ethiopia and the African Union, Mohamed Gad, said Egypt strives to raise dependency on renewable energy from 18% to 45% by 2025. The workshop comes on the sidelines of a conference for African Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, which will kick off Monday in Senegal. The workshop and the consultative session for which Egypt called comes in a series of meetings on the sidelines of the latest African Union summit in February in Addis Ababa to consolidate a unified African stance on climate issues and present it in COP27, which will be held in Egypt's Sharm el-Sheikh. GAD called on the African nations to arrive at a fair transition to renewable energy and secure sustainable financing of green energy projects in Africa, as well as to follow up on the pledges made to Africa in COP26. For his part, John Paul Adam, the Director of Technology, Climate Change and Natural Resources Management in the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, said Africa constitutes less than 1% of the share of green bonds to finance renewable energy and green economy projects worldwide. Adam called on the African states to coordinate at the level of legislation and to control prices to encourage the private sector to invest in energy, as well as to ensure the availability of data and information to make sound decisions towards a world of renewable and equitable energy. He emphasized that countries that invested in renewable energy early to have benefited from price stability and distanced themselves from increasing energy prices in light of international turmoil.
And for our continued news, the number of COVID-19 infections reported in Africa has reached 11,545,000 on Sunday, as many countries the continent continues to report reduced new cases. The latest figure was published by the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which also noted that Africa has registered a total of 252,000 virus-related fatalities. We have more details in this story.
Most African countries in the past week continued to report declines in new cases of COVID-19, with some further easing containment measures that have been in place for months. In Egypt, a full reopening of mosques has been green-lighted as part of the latest easing of COVID-19 restrictions. Rwanda's government, on its part, lifted a mask mandate for people in public. A few countries have, however, expressed concerns over possible resurgence of cases as cold seasons creep in. South Africa, the continent's hardest hit country, has particularly seen a slight rise in infections, prompting health authorities to amplify their calls for vigilance against the virus. Although cases have risen, hospitalization in South Africa remains low, with the number of patients currently admitted testing positive for COVID-19 at around 20% of the late December 2021 peak. According to the World Health Organization, Africa's past 4 pandemic waves have occurred around mid and end year and mostly driven by new COVID-19 variants, winter seasons, and high population movement during these holiday periods. In 2021, the Delta-fueled mid-year surge began around May and in late November with the emergence of Omicron.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. It's a very good afternoon to you, Mr. Ambassador.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Ambassador. Very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ambassador. A report by the Ministry of Planning has announced that Egypt remains the biggest recipient of foreign direct investment in Africa. How do you see this achievement and the reasons behind it, sir?
Very good news, but frankly speaking, as Egyptian citizens, not good enough, because we want to double this. We need foreign direct investment, and we need to address our people to understand that we need this. It's not that foreigners are coming to own our property and things like that. The thing is, in brief, that we gave birth since 2011 to 25 million inhabitants, new inhabitants in Egypt. This is double the number of the citizens of a country, rich country like Greece. Okay, God bless them. This needs to make our growth rate exceeding the birth rate by 3 times. This needs that we invest 30% of our income, while we are only saving half of this. figure. The gap, how we can fill this gap, by depending on Egyptians living abroad, by depending on our Arab brothers, and for foreign direct investment also. So we have to explore all the possibilities which we can in order to attract more and more foreign direct investment.
Indeed.
If we succeed to do this, then we shall cover our aim for better life, better quality of life, to cover the birth rate, to cover whatever we need to ameliorate our education, our health care, name it. So
Indeed.
I am glad that we are still ahead of any other Arab country in attracting
Or African
foreign
country.
direct investment, and also ahead of any African country.
Yes.
But to be honest to you, this is not enough. We have to double our efforts. We want to call all our citizens to work harder, and to call to our bureaucracy to make our bureaucracy less. There is homework which must be done. To
Indeed,
make our
Mr.
banking system much easier, to make our circulation of documents in the government much faster, because an investor, before he comes, he would calculate how long it would take him since he put the first $1 million in our banks until he get the first $1,000 as profits. If we shorten this distance, we can, of course, attract more and more foreign direct investment. But let us say that we have good news, and this should encourage us to work more.
Absolutely. Mr. Ambassador, let me ask you, sir, how do you see the reasons? What are the reasons behind the increased growth rates in the first quarter of the fiscal year 2021-2022 in Egypt, despite the repercussions of the coronavirus pandemic, alongside other developments globally, including the Ukrainian-Russian war?
It seems that we are lucky people. As a matter of fact, thank God that we are doing our homework. I say not enough, but we are doing enough homework. Thank God that before the coronavirus started, we were lucky enough to decide to start our economic reform policy in November 2016. Then the epidemic, when it came, we were already standing on our feet. Then the crisis of the economic repercussion of the war in Ukraine also came, and we are in relatively good health. Very rare countries, according to the IMF, will continue growing positively. Germany, China, the strongest economy in the world, their growth will be by minus. They are diminishing. Egypt, among very few countries, less than 5 countries, are continuing their growth positively. But still, as I said, we have to increase this. So, to answer your question, that we are lucky from one side, and we are clever. We did our homework also since we started our economic reform.
Absolutely right. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Your Excellency, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, and for your insight. And that wraps up today's edition of Africa Today. My name is Angie Mehermani. Thanks for watching.